Hi, Summer. Hi, Brian. Hi, Tyler.
Hi, how are you?
Good, good. Thankful for another day.
You're hiding.
I'm not hiding.
Hello, everybody.
Hi.
Hi.
Hi, Tom. Hi, Gwen.
Hi, how are you?
How are you, honey bun?
Hey, I'm hanging in here.
Graduation's coming.
I know. It's driving me crazy. Sending me pictures about what other school districts are doing. Well, this school district postponed there to August. I said, we're not going there. Enjoy what we're doing.
I don't miss those days. Hi, Lori. How are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm good. Miss seeing those kiddos?
I do miss them.
I bet you do.
I've been getting a lot of emails, though. They've been emailing. So that's pretty cute.
Good.
That's pretty cute. How are you?
I'm good. I'm tired of being contained. I want to get out and roam.
No, you got to be safe.
I know.
Safety first, little roamer.
Everyone, we'll get started. Now we're in the committee of the whole, and the first item is our 2020-21 instructional plan. Mr. Polito?
Well, good evening, everyone.
Evening.
I just wanted to take a few minutes and touch base on next year because now that we have our instruction plan for 1920 up and running, we've started to shift our focus to next year. As you probably saw earlier this week, the Secretary of Ed did say that schools would open in the fall and that more guidance would be coming soon. I'm hoping that's soon because we have a lot of work to do for next year. Although we don't have the guidance, we do expect that next year there is going to be some improvements to our class schedules. We also, with the way everything is going, anticipate having the transition between remote learning and in-person learning as we move between the three phases that are set out by the governor. As a result of all that, we do know that next year's instructional model is going to need to be able to deliver seamlessly, both remotely and in person, and are starting to plan accordingly. We've been talking the last 2 weeks with our team. We've put together a district-wide planning committee and are starting to put together some subcommittees really to address the overall instructional plan, student supports, student engagement, facilities, and technology. Our goal at this point is to really have a pretty solid framework in place and more details to share with you, hopefully by the first week of June. And we anticipate really, once we have that established, working over the summer to put everything in place for the fall. Teresa, is there anything you want to share?
Sure, just a few things that we're exploring, some alternate learning management systems other than Google Classroom to see if there's something out there that may serve our students better in a hybrid model, moving from potentially red to yellow to green phases. We're looking at a couple options there. And we're also starting to plan on how we can accelerate learning in the fall due to the stop in instruction in March. So we're hoping to bring you some options coming here in the near future and to provide our students with the best opportunities.
Any questions from the board? Comments?
Well, it's very confusing to me that they haven't provided us any guidance. I mean, the prudent thing for us to do right now would be to do distance learning in the fall. I mean, that's what they're doing in California. Facebook and Google are doing that. And that would be the safe thing to do. But the state seems to have the jurisdiction over this. And that's a concern for me because I think it'd be disruptive if we opened next September, then had to close down in October, just like it was in the spring. And if we laid off people now, we would lay off a lot of people. We'd have no tax issue. It wouldn't be popular with anybody. But to me, that's the safe move, would be to close down for the fall, looking to open in January, rather than gambling like we're doing. We're gambling that we'll be able to stay open. So we'll spend millions of dollars on payroll for people that really are needed over the summer if we don't start, if we are required to do that. I don't know how much latitude they're going to give us. To my understanding, to the end of the school year at June 30th, we don't have any. They told us you have to keep everybody working, and we've been in compliance with that. But they haven't told us anything since on that. And of course, what their reimbursement is going to be is likely to cut. I think our budget's too rosy. Brian pointed that out. He showed what had happened in Northeast and all the districts when the Great Recession occurred. It was a huge dislocation for the school. So the only way that there won't be a dislocation is if the feds bail out the state. And, there doesn't seem to be a whole lot going on that one either. So I really think we should be considering that, but I don't even know if we can consider that.
What we're really looking at is making sure that whatever we're doing next year can be delivered either way, simultaneously, so that there is no disruption if we're moving back and forth, or if we do decide that we have to stay home for the first part of the year. We would still be able to deliver that instruction and make it a little more interactive.
But the problem with being ready to do both, it's quite expensive. If we end up doing distance learning September 15th, we would have no savings. Where if we did something now, we're 3 months ahead of it, I would assume there'd be some savings. I'm sure there's notice requirements and such with the unions and such. But I mean, they just really haven't given us enough information here. We're not sure if we can make the decision or not, or if there's going to be some ability to within a range of motion. And most importantly, we don't know how much money we're going to have. I mean, they can talk about having the schools open, but if they're not going to fund it, how's that going to happen? If they're going to cut funding. It's just a real dilemma for all of us.
Anyone else? Thank you, Brian. Next is the collegiate renovation project. Brian, you want to hand that to Neil?
That works for me. I'm trying to share my screen now so I can show you guys some pictures. So work started about 3 weeks ago, and EE Austin and the team that they have is doing a really good job of really getting through the work. So I walked around the building yesterday just to give you guys a little bit of an update on kind of where they are. They started doing some of the cuts on the top of the promenade to get a better look at what the structural slab, so the slab of concrete underneath the top slab of concrete looks like. They have completely demoed both set of steps. So when you walk up onto the promenade and you look, it's kind of very strange to take a look at the building and not see stairs there. And so this is the other one. You can see they're both gone already. This picture is, and the next one is the roof to the concession stand. They literally already did all of the tear off, and they put down the new membrane on top of it already. So this is about a week in front of schedule, I believe, from when they originally set it out in the beginning. This is the East Gym. They took down the HVAC system that was up there, and they already started to demo the ceiling so that they can get in again. This is more of the exploratory. If everybody remembers, these structural steel members that are here and the cross braces here are in the plan for being replaced. And so what happened was we had the code enforcement officer for Erie as well as a bunch of engineers in, and they started to look over to determine all the steel membranes that need to be replaced, just because that's got a very long lead time. And any place where it wasn't in such bad shape, it's going to be a little bit of a savings towards us. And that's something that our clerk of the works has been working with E.E. Austin and the engineers on. This is the West Gym. This was the usable gym. You can see it's the same basic premise. They took down the unit ventilators that were up here. They exposed the underside of the promenade. And then if you notice, the entire floor is missing because it's already been abated. So the asbestos contractor came in and removed all of the asbestos material that was in this room. And so this floor is actually about 4 inches lower than it was prior to the work being done. That's how much material they took out. This is what was the pool. As you can see, the pool is completely filled right now with pea gravel, as was the plan. They demoed the tile around the outside of it. And then it might be difficult to see, but there used to be a balcony up here. The balcony has been completely demolished. And you can see right here, it went around. So that's already out. So this room is moving along very nicely as well.
My old school.
I took swimming lessons in that pool.
I hear you.
So if we turn our attention up on the roof, this is the West Tower. So last summer, the East Tower was replaced. This is now the West Tower. The masons are starting by removing this wall. They're going to bring it down the grade so that they can shore it up structurally. This was a knee wall that went through up there. That same thing, the brick is a lot of disrepair. So they're taking out the brick and they're going to be building it back up. Not as high. Originally, the wall went basically to where this second bar is in the scaffolding. There's no need for it to be that high. So they're going to basically bring it up about halfway. And so that's that West Tower. The roofers have started in on those infill areas. I believe one is an art room and the other one I think is the dance room. So they've already torn off the old roof that was here. And this was actually the workers laying down the glue so that they can attach the rubber membrane to the actual insulation. This is the other courtyard. They've completely finished this roof. All the tear off is done. All the new rubber membrane is down. And obviously you can see the guy was coating and sealing the seams. This is the east side. So again, this is that east tower, which they fixed last year. And again, they tore down all of the brick here because all of it needed to be replaced. And again, they'll build that wall up about halfway. Just so that everybody knows, I figured this would help everybody just as you look at the building. This is the actual roofing sequence. So this is the how they're going to be moving around the building, completing the roof. So this is that concession stand roof down here. And you can see that the close date for that was actually supposed to be May 28th. And I took those pictures yesterday and the work is just about done. And then the plan for the roofers is to kind of start at the higher points and then move their way around the building. In the back, this section right here, because it has a very large amount of asbestos on the walls, they're going to tackle this one relatively quickly, at least sooner into the summer than later, just because they know that the abatement work is going to take a while. This is back down onto the ground, normal level. This, unfortunately, sorry, Darlene, this is where the garden was. It will be replaced.
It's all good.
I know. I figured I would just say it, though. Because you're welcome. The plan here is they're going to put a ramp so that there's handicap accessibility into this gym. Because right now there really was no good way to get somebody there. So this is going to be where the handicap entrance is going to be. And I think, oh yeah, so this is from the ground. You can see that's that east tower, excuse me, the west tower that they're working on. They're going to wind up taking it down to probably about this level. I would say about 2/3 of the entire tower is going to be torn down. They're going to go all the way down to the roof line and then build it back up so that it is structurally safe for another 100 years. The plan did call for the removal of the old lights. And I at least wanted to bring this to everybody's attention now because the contractors brought it to my attention. These lights are about 100 years old. And unfortunately, as they were taking them off, they were so brittle that most of the metal just started to snap. So they are going to take it to Erie Weld. They are the ones that are going to do the work there, and they're going to try to repair and refabricate as much as possible. I don't know if we are going to be able to get every single one back that they take off. And so I figured I would bring it to everybody's attention now, as we are in the early stages of this, just so that everybody's aware.
How many of those lights are there?
I believe that there is 10 in total, and this was the one that they was the absolute worst, and so they kind of left it there just so that I could take a look at it. So, and is actually for my pictures.
Go ahead.
No, I was saying that's my last picture there, John. So
I just wondered if you're saying that they'll try to piece those back together with fabricated parts, or whether they'll refabricate an entire replica.
I think they're going to try to fabricate parts and then attach it to the original ones as best as they can.
Is that a good idea? I guess I'd like to see that, but would it be better to consider a new style, shape, look of light while we're doing it?
So those lights are going to be just decorative. They're not going to be functional at all. Part of the whole plan was to put them back because they were there for 100 years, and we want to keep the history of the building and the character that the building has together. So they just need to be put back in place together and remounted. They're not going to be working lights.
I remember the night of the celebration up there when there was a big crowd. There was a lot of discussion among people there, and hope that when the lights were repaired or dealt with, that there would be LED lights installed. Will that be done? Will that be done in addition, or could they be installed through this? You just seem to say no, they wouldn't be. But
well, that was the original plan, was that those lights would not be functional. I can talk with the electricians and the excuse me, general contractor on the job to see if that's a possibility. I know that along the stone edge, the stone wall of the promenade, we are going to be putting in some lighting there, some LED lighting to light up the promenade. Obviously, it doesn't have the same visual effect as the old original lights do.
Well, while we're at it, if it's a once every 100-year project, I want to make sure we don't miss a chance. And I know the lights were a big topic of discussion that night, and I think the hope was that somehow those old fixtures could be, could contain LED fixtures somehow. But if you could just look into it and see what's possible, I'd appreciate it.
I certainly can.
Anyone on this? Any comments?
Neil, I have a question and a comment. So first, I'll start with the comment. I just want you to know how much I appreciate having somebody in charge of this project that really has a passion for restoration, and it looks great so far. So I thank you. Thanks for the pictures. The second question was, I noticed when you were showing us the architect's drawings that 5B is scheduled to be completed in October. So I wondered if you could go over what 5B was.
Yep. I'll go back to the picture. Okay, so 5B is this side. That's the last side. So State Street is this side of the building. So basically right underneath where the parking lot is. So they kind of work their way around and then back over. This is where the dump truck is. This is the staging area, just because it's easier to get material craned up from the State Street side up to there. And so they kind of work their way off the roof. We've had really good weather so far for this project. And this roof is done by McCreary. They're the people who are doing the roof. They did Wilson's roof last year. I think that the October 2nd deadline of being done is actually late. I think that it will be done before then, and that's my opinion, just because, again, they've already tackled this lower roof, and they're 2 weeks ahead on that one. These two areas down here, this area is completely done, and it's not slated to start until next week, and they've already started this section right here, and that's dated for July. So the fact that we were able to get everybody in earlier was a lot better. If you notice, this start date for section 1 was actually, April 20th, and I believe that they resumed work on that roof on April 6th. So I would say that they're at least 3 weeks ahead of what the timing is on this project as it is. And as long as they keep working at the rate that they are, and they've had really good weather, it very well could be completed by the beginning of September.
It's great news. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. President.
Go ahead, Gwen.
I have a question, and it's a question, but it's also something in our favor. You know how the Dobbins Landing, the library, other places have sold bricks? Is it possible, does it also be additional fundraiser for the district, for the school? There would be somewhere where we could sell bricks and that can be planted into the school?
The brickwork that is being done, for the most part, is up on the roof. I'm not sure anybody's going to see those bricks. They are doing some restoration work around the building. They're just ordering the brick now. I can look into the possibility of selling bricks to put on the outside of the building, but that's not going to be a decision that I am going to make, because that will be forever on the building.
Right.
I'll leave that to you guys to decide.
I was just thinking, or maybe a walkway, just because people get sentimental when things are being done. And I was just looking at money.
Neil?
Yes.
Neil, question?
Yep.
Seeing these images and listening to you explain it, I was aware that the promenade, one of the worries was that it needed to be supported from underneath, and you showed us the gyms. Where is it that the support needs to be or will be shored up under the promenade in relation to where the gyms are?
Okay, so I'll go from the roof plan, just because it's probably the easiest way for me to show it. So this is the entire promenade. This is the east gym. This is the pool, and this is the west gym. So through the investigation and what the architects saw originally, and then what the engineers found, is that the shoring that was actually underneath the steps, which, if you've ever been in the pool area, you'll notice that there's basically wood holding it up. What would be like a 2x12 is holding it up. So all of this area right underneath these steps, both sets of steps, needs to be shored up. So there's going to be new steel members put in here and here on both sides. The steel that runs perpendicular, I guess, to the promenade seemed to be in good shape. What we found is that the steel members that ran parallel and along the outside edge of the promenade, this whole section is where they found the most damage. And so there's going to be a lot of structural steel placed right down here, and that's where a lot of the changes are going to be made.
Okay. Aside from Gwen's suggestion on the bricks, could we save a pile of bricks for any interested alumni or citizens, like we talked about maybe from Roosevelt, if there was an interest in some people either being given or purchasing a souvenir brick.
When I was up there and I saw them taking it down, the brick were so brittle and in such bad repair that they actually crumbled. There was very little brick that was still remained intact. But again, that's something that I will talk to the contractors about. And at least if there's anything decent that's worth saving, I'll have them set them aside.
Thanks, Neil. Anyone else?
Yes, Neil, I have a question on the central project. To my understanding, that's about $30 million will be spent up there. What is the period of time that's required for that?
According to the original plan by the architects, they said 18 months.
And are the plans in place right now?
So we have gone as far as all the drawings are done. I believe the HVAC, the electrical, and the architectural drawings are done. Because of what was happening with the talk of possibly funding the project with PlanCon, we kind of put a stop to the movement of the project. We told the architects just to hold off because, and of course, this was pre-global pandemic. So they haven't begun creating the spec books for that project yet.
Yeah, we shared with the board back, I think it was January or February, that there was the possibility that we could maybe double the amount of work up there with some additional state funding. And we wanted to wait till June to see if they had funded that in the budget. I think probably at this point, the chances of that happening are slim to none. So we'll get back on that here. I think we probably want to wait a little bit longer just to see what they do with the state budget. But the idea was to start developing the plans, put it out to bid in the fall, and start construction after the first of the year.
So we are planning to do it in this next academic year? And where would the kids be moved then? Or they'd work around them?
It would be a workaround. The project is slated to be phased in. And actually, because of the way that it is phased and the way that the scheduling of the students would go is we would displace those students to other rooms throughout the building and those teachers while the contractors work on one section. The most classrooms in a section would be 16, and with teacher preps and the number of classrooms, we can displace those teachers during the time period while that area is being renovated.
That's a really good point, Mr. Nichols. We'll keep that in mind as we start to develop our plans for next year, because it may, depending on how many students we have in the building, it may make it easier to get that work done if we don't have a full complement.
Anything else? How about anything on the agenda pending? We do need an executive session.
Mr. President, I don't know, you and I had a conversation yesterday. When would be the appropriate time for me to talk about the tax increase? Is that something we want to wait for until the meeting? We want to wait until after Brian gives his superintendent report?
I'll admit, Darlene, I'm a little concerned. We need an important executive session. We'll probably only have about 20 minutes to do it. So I'd rather put that first, and there'll be opportunities either during the superintendent's report or when we get to the new business, if there's any budget related item.
Okay, that's great. I just wanted to know when was the appropriate time. I didn't think now was. I was just checking. Thank you.
Well, it could have been, but because of this executive session, I'd rather we don't shorten that any more than we have to. But I'll keep in mind what you're talking about, and we'll get it in.
Okay, thank you.
We'll have that discussion. Okay, I'll just say, is there any other matter for this committee of the whole prior to that executive session? Well, we'll go into the executive session now on our